race fans, it's time for those most famous words in motorsport.
RACE22 Radio!
It's time for another edition of RACE22 Radio. In-depth coverage of all your favorite late model stock car racing action from all perspectives.
You want answers!
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
RACE22 Radio is hosted by Race22.com founder, Mr. Langley Austin.
All they need to do is delete the late model stock cars from that rule book, and that will help start fixing things right there. I mean, that's all we got to do. Just
so
delete
in the
that.
NASCAR rule book is delete the pages and just say refer to car stores.
Exactly. That's all they got to do. That's all they got to do.
RACE22 Radio is co-hosted by Performance Center Racing Warehouse President, Mr. Roger Johnson.
You're the guy for this, in my opinion. You know, we don't. I mean, name me anybody else that's doing it.
Well, appreciate
it, right? Well, it doesn't mean you're good. I'm just saying.
With special co-host, Crazy Corey Latham. Sit back, buckle in, and hold on tight. RACE22 Radio is coming right at you at full throttle. And now your host, Mr. Langley Austin.
All right, guys. I guess that's me right there. Langley Austin here, Race22.com, Race22 Radio, live from Performance Center Racing Warehouse in Statesville, North Carolina. It's Thursday. We're live on the air.
What happened?
I don't know. What happened? Somebody's going to have to let us know what happened today while we're on the radio.
Wow.
We don't even know. We just somebody suggested we should have a radio show, and we just did it.
Yeah, we'll try a different night, maybe.
Right. Yeah, I think maybe those NASCAR penalties that came down today.
A lot of news.
Yeah. And I guess that's where we need to start is explaining what came out today. Of course, we've been waiting on a penalty. We reported here on Monday night that there would be no penalty for Lee Pulliam. Had a story up about that as well. Well, that was wrong. So the racetrack did, suggest to NASCAR that there be no penalty, but NASCAR didn't care. So whatever the reason, they decided to suspend Lee Pulliam until April 17th, which, to me, that part of it, that's like a non-penalty because his next race is April 20th anyway.
Right.
It doesn't affect him going to the car store race this weekend.
$1,500 lighter.
Well, $1,500. Now that's a significant thing.
That's not right. That's not
right. I heard Performance Center was paying half of that or something.
He doesn't have my cars anymore.
Oh, that's right.
But yeah, I'm that guy.
Right. But yeah.
Depends how angry I would have got you.
Yeah, Lee Pulliam, fined $1,500, suspended until April 17th, and if the fine's not paid, NASCAR suspension will continue. Of course, it'll be paid, and he'll go on probation until December 31st. Philip Morris, of course, the old actions detrimental to stock car racing.
Before you go further, what do you think about it?
Well, let's get it out there first.
Okay.
Let's just get everything out there, and then we'll go from there.
I'm going to blow over. I can't take it.
Philip Morris received a $1,000 fine, basically for not, keeping his crew member under control, which I'm not really sure how he's expected to do that. I get it. I know it's a rule, and I know it has to be, enforced or whatever. And he's suspended from NASCAR until the fine's paid, which, again, nothing. Probation until December 31st, which, what does probation mean? I don't think anybody knows, so we'll discuss that here in a minute, too.
You're not supposed to have another one.
And when
Maybe.
When NASCAR posted this penalty, they posted a note saying any attempt by crew chief Forrest Reynolds to participate in a NASCAR event as a crew member of Philip Morris's team will result in further penalties levied to Philip Morris. Well, I had to do a little bit of follow-up. I had a NASCAR rep actually, reach out to me and, give me the information of how that works. Forrest Reynolds did not have a NASCAR license, so suspend him technically based on the way that works. So instead, they have prohibited him from attending any NASCAR sanctioned race, and they have sent it out to all the NASCAR sanctioned tracks, saying that he cannot go. So, what that means, I don't know. I mean, it's it's an interesting scenario, one we've not seen before. We have never seen the guy who is being attacked penalized. Which Lee Pulliam was, and was he being attacked? Was he not? I had a interview with Forrest Reynolds, and I'm thankful that Forrest spoke to me. I had reached out to him, and then the next day he was like, "Man, this is exploded." So I need to get my story out there, and he did. And we're definitely thankful for that. And I mean, it's been an interesting week. I see Wake County Speedway says Kevin from NASCAR. I'm not even going to try his last name because I will screw that up, I'm guaranteeing. But he is tuning in, so he might be able to weigh in. I don't know if he'll be wanting to do that or not. But that's his choice. Whatever he wants to do, I don't care. But Cathy Rice will be on here a little bit later. We're expecting her to be on the show sometime after 7 o'clock. Until then, you got me, Langley Austin, and my cohort here, Roger Johnson. I would say you could talk to Corey, but he's probably on here watching.
Yeah, I think he is watching.
Yeah. So I guess you asked the question there, of what I thought. And I really don't know what to make of it, man. I don't know that we've ever had this scenario where a guy doesn't have a NASCAR license, and they can't really suspend him. And have we ever had a crew member run out on a racetrack like that? I can't recall one. It's always been drivers in the past. I mean, I can reference Peyton Sellers, which did the same thing to Lee. Mike Robertson with
Stoltz.
Yeah, Derek Stoltz. Yep. I've talked to Derek earlier, asking him about his penalties. I'll tell you about that a little bit later. So we've had some interesting scenarios, but none quite like this. I think this is new, and I think the penalty for Lee is an interesting one because it opens up a whole nother can of worms.
For sure.
The representative that I talked to today, basically told me that it was because of how the Lee's car sped away from the situation. So here's the question: can he pull away, or is he supposed to sit there? And if he does pull away, he's supposed to do it slowly. I'm kind of confused. Roger, what do you think of this, man?
I don't know. I mean. I got nothing. Right? Like, how do you find? If you would have said that you find him for dumping Phillip, I have no problem.
Right.
Right. Like if you say, okay, you guys.
Yeah,
have
but that
problems.
gets into a whole other scenario.
But wait, I know, but and what I'm saying is, you say, oh, you guys have had problems, blah blah blah. He did this did this. I'm not saying he dumped Phillip. I know that can be taken out of context. I just don't understand. Like, if I'm driving. And Langley tries to come fight me, I'm doing whatever.
Right.
I mean,
right.
At no point, it's all bets are off.
Right, I'm with you.
I mean, that's it. Helmets, whatever. I mean, whatever you got to do.
I mean, I just don't understand. The penalty for Lee. The part that doesn't make any sense, and I don't think anybody can make sense of it, is what do you want him to do? You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, is there?
Well,
and we'll talk to Cathy Rice. I'm sure she's had more conversations with NASCAR than we have. And, we'll try to, figure out what they want a driver to do. Because this sets, any crew member can say, well, I ain't got a NASCAR license. I'll run out on the racetrack. I mean, you're going to kick me out. Well, you don't know what, the next racetrack down the street doesn't know what I look like. Right. So you can't, there's not the infrastructure, that they use at the Cup Series.
Right, this ain't the Cup
doesn't fit here.
Nope.
So, they're leveling penalties as if it does.
But there's no infrastructure. They can levy the penalty all they want to. But there's no infrastructure to make sure that it's not right, or that it's handled the correct way.
Guys, I know you're sending in some comments here, and I'll try to get back to them here in a minute. I'll pick out ones that I can try to answer, stuff like that. But talk to one racetrack promoter owner. I don't know what the exact scenario there is. Talked to them earlier, and basically asked them if Forrest shows up at their track, what are they going to do? And they said, I mean, as long as he doesn't buy a NASCAR license, he's good, right?
Right.
And I was like, I don't think that's how it's supposed to be, but
Right.
I think that's how it's probably gonna be.
You know, I think Forrest made a mistake.
Sure.
I think he said he made a mistake.
Yep, he admitted it.
I think it takes a big man to do that. I think that a lot of people, before they judge Forrest, you and I alluded to it a little bit earlier. I think they should realize that what a high level Forrest competes at.
Right.
The guys were winning national championships, and that's it. There's pressure there.
Sure.
So I think it's hard. I just don't think he should be judged unfairly. I think that people don't know all the stories that go on, and I think the stories get construed out of bounds sometimes,
Right.
and I don't think that that's the way. But I do believe that if I tried to take it, if it was my son racing, I would want my son to drive away.
Sure.
I'll pay the fine. I don't care if it's
Sure.
$2,000, but drive away, and we'll handle it later.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to take a chance. And,
Right.
I get, like everybody kind of misunderstood what Lee said the other day. Lee didn't say that he had anything.
Right,
He said he
right.
didn't know.
Right,
He,
sure.
he said that he was unaware. Yes, I know there's been things said by other people, close to the Pulliam camp and said, oh, he had this or he had that or what. It doesn't matter. It's not what Lee said. Lee said that he didn't know what he had. He wasn't sure if there was something in his hand. He could not tell. And if you've ever been in one of these cars, which, obviously I'm not fitting in the window, so I have not. But, I can see it. I got one sitting right over here beside of us. It's just not it just doesn't make any sense for you to think, that you could, do anything from the driver's seat. You're strapped in the way they're contained in there now, man.
Right.
What are you going to do?
Right, I agree. And my second for the clarification from NASCAR would be: did you want him to pull away slow? Like, so the way that he pulled away.
Oh, that's what I gathered.
Right,
He needed to pull away slower.
So
is that 25%, 15%, 35%?
Right.
What do you do here?
I don't know.
Or was it the distance that he traveled? Because
But it really wasn't that far. If you look at the video, he didn't get very far away from
How
where
are
he
they
was
going to stop
originally
this
there.
from ever happening again?
Right.
They can't.
They're not going to
There's
stop
nothing
this
they
from
can
ever
do.
happening. Obviously, if you don't have a NASCAR license, we really can't do anything to you.
Yeah, because
that's it.
put aside, you don't know what he had or what he was going to try to do to Lee. He went in through the window. If he's going to try to pull wires, then he's going to damage, the race car.
Sure.
Why would he sit there and allow that? You know what I'm saying? That's so.
Why would you be
this whole
expected
thing
to?
exactly?
You know what? This Roger Holt brings up a great question. Langley, you should read it. I had a driver
find
tell
it.
me this today.
Roger Holt says that I know some drivers way back a long time ago kept an ice pick in the race car.
No, I'm serious. I heard this today from a guy.
And they had all they had to do was show it, and the person trying to come in the car. I'll tell you a funny one.
He
Okay?
said, "I promise you won't do that at a dirt
Oh,
track."
I
He
bet.
said they will beat the sense out of you.
Here's a good one. Okay, I was talking to a guy the other day, and I wanted to know why he, would just sit there, because I did my little poll on my Facebook.
Sure,
Would you
sure.
sit there? So I'm looking at the results, and I'm like, dude, I gotta know. You know what I mean? And I'm not gonna tell who it is, but he said I just sit there. He said sit there and see what transpires. And I said, why would you want to do that? He said, well, that guy don't know what I'm packing in here. I said, well, Lord.
The rules just changed.
The chances of something like that happening is really bad. So now our drivers expected. Are we gonna make a new rule that drivers have to pack heat in their car? Is that what we got to do?
I don't know. I
because
think
they've
NASCAR-
made the driver vulnerable here.
I really think NASCAR got this one wrong. I am judging that, I guess. I really think they got it wrong. I think they got this one wrong. I applaud them for doing something, but I think they got it wrong. I think they got it wrong. I think they want to make.
I understand what they're trying to do. I really do. Understand. I get it. I get that you can't have guys riding on the side of race cars. I totally get that. Right.
So what did they do to stop it, though? You understand what they did? What did they do to stop it? They did nothing to stop it.
Nothing.
Because tomorrow at Hickory, or Saturday at Hickory, or Orange County, the same exact scenario could play out again, and now it can be a dad instead. It's a dad that little Billy got wrecked, so his dad is mad.
Yeah. Right.
What happens?
Well, that played out several years ago with the McCalls, didn't it? Matt And Mr. McCall?
You have to clue me in on this
I
one.
don't know. Go with it.
I'm not sure. I mean, things happened, but things like that happen. I mean, anything can happen at a racetrack. I mean, I think, you know, and you know, good question off my text message here. You know, and that is, so if he pulls the wires out
Right.
of the MSD, was the track going to let Lee Pulliam fix it?
Right.
No, they probably were not.
Yeah.
You know.
And nobody knows what the intent was, right? Like, I mean, I'm
Sure,
sure
sure.
it was to do that.
We know what Forrest said. I mean,
Correct.
and I'll read a little bit
And
of
I
that.
think he's honest. I mean, Forrest didn't have any reason to really lie, I don't think, at that point.
You know, the guy admitted that he lost his temper through his
Correct.
radio, you know, and said that he
Well,
went in
you've
there to get the
seen
wires
it.
just like Peyton did.
We've seen that's where I was going. You've seen it done before, so you know that's the move. If you're going inside that window, that's the move.
Right.
That's the go-to move when you're mad.
Now, yeah. I mean, and Peyton pretty much set that into motion around here anyways.
And what was Peyton's penalty?
So I don't know of any. I don't know. I tried to
That's
look it
a
up
good
earlier.
point.
and I
Was
couldn't
it done
find
on the track?
Somebody
Was it done in the
listening may
pit?
It was
know.
done on the racetrack.
On the racetrack, really?
Somebody will tell us.
Yeah, somebody
that's-
maybe knows.
That's a whole nother scenario. Like somebody asked me earlier.
He
to
didn't get
compare
drugged,
that.
yeah.
Well, it's not that. The scenario difference is that's a driver. These are two
Driver
drivers
versus
that are on the
driver,
racetrack.
right.
You know what I mean? This isn't a crew member running out onto the racetrack. This is a totally different scenario.
The
Yeah.
driver has to be licensed, correct?
Yes,
Yes,
drivers do
has
have
to
to be
be.
licensed.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's just one of those things. I don't, you know, there's got to be, if we're going to make rulings like this, we got to, you know, make it to where, you know, the drivers aren't vulnerable, because right now they are. You've got them contained in these race cars. And
Totally defenseless. Yes.
Totally. I mean, Austin Thaxton, when I interviewed him, talking about when the guy came up and started wailing on him, you know, he pulled up to basically, you know, help Lee because he didn't want, you know, Forrest in there, you know, punching on him. You know what I mean? He's like, you know, it was a helpless feeling, and I didn't want to be in that position, you know?
I do agree that's the one thing I think maybe if it's drivers, I think that's that falls under a completely different category. I just don't know how far this goes.
Yeah, and you know, Dave Sapp chiming in here, he says, pulling wires or not, he got what he asked for. And that's the sentiment of a lot of people. Now, do I feel that way? I don't know. I mean, listen, I mean, for us, I mean, this is just, you know, it's hard for me to say, you know, I've known, you know, Forrest since he's 5 years old, so I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, he got what he deserved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because but I mean, at the same time, you know, I mean, I look at it and I go, okay, you know, this guy did go out there.
Right.
You know, he went out there, whatever his intentions were, it doesn't matter. He's still out on the racetrack. As Austin Thaxton said, you know, you got a 3,100-pound, you know, race car, and you got these guys going around the racetrack. There is no room for a human body on the racetrack.
Right.
Unless
That's
you're
right.
strapped in, there's no room for a human body. And he's 100% correct. I'm not sure if I used that quote in the story or not, but I mean, that's the truth. I mean, Chris Elliott talking about Austin Thaxton here says, you know, what about when Danny Willis jumped in Austin Thaxton's window? And yeah, that's, you know, kind of what we're talking about here. And he says that Willis was there the very next week. So we're not,
Right.
we're just not, you know, and I like Danny Willis. I consider him, you know, somebody that, you know, I respect a lot, and Austin too, for that matter. But, you know, I just, you know, we're setting the wrong, you know, tone here. We're saying that, you know, the guy pulling away, you know, is not that bad, and what Peyton did, you know, pulling the wires was okay. You know what I mean? And Derek Stoltz, and this goes back to the Derek Stoltz thing, and I mentioned earlier. Derek Stoltz, I talked to him earlier. I said, well, what was your penalty when you know, drugged Mike Robertson around track? He's nothing, probation, and it didn't mean anything. And it doesn't there. And it wasn't a NASCAR penalty, it was a racetrack penalty. So NASCAR didn't even get involved. So they're picking and choosing their battles, and they got to get it down. You know, either you got to have a rule, and we're going to enforce it, or we're not.
Correct.
And you can't blame it because of the video being more public, because that
Oh, yeah.
situation with Stoltz was
That was
very,
way more public than
yeah.
this.
Mike had his own Facebook fan page. What's it called? Face Snap.
I don't know.
But he had his.
You been drinking again?
No.
Yes.
This is his off day.
But Mike, you
He's
know,
got Dr. Pepper over there.
He's
he
hitting it hard.
come up with his own character from that.
Right,
You know,
he did.
That's kind of what I was going with,
You know,
Roger.
and, I mean, we got to get us a RACE22 T-shirt out of this deal. We got to get something. We've been talking about it.
But luckily, he didn't get seriously injured as
Right.
well. So
100%.
it's still both very scary
I
situations.
think in a way, I wouldn't want to speak for him, but I would imagine if I was Forrest and it went down this way, I would be happy with what happened.
Sure. Well, let me tell you. I can tell you.
Okay.
I texted him, and I will read it word for word what it says here. I texted him
Because I could have thought it would have been way, way worse.
and I asked specifically, want to talk about the penalty and your point of view on it? His response, no, I'm good with it.
Right. I would think so, too.
I mean...
Because I think for him, I think it came out good. I think... I know this sounds bad, and I know nobody's going to believe this, but I think Lee Pulliam's the one that got kind of shafted in the whole thing.
Well, for sure. I mean...
I think Phillip got, you know what I mean? But that one I just really don't understand.
Well, I think, because Forrest didn't have a NASCAR license, Phillip got that $1,000 fine. I don't think he would have got it otherwise. I believe that. I don't know.
I think they would have still happened because you still have to control your crew.
Right.
The driver, it goes back on the driver no matter what.
Them
correct?
using that, them using that deal.
That leverage.
I think, right.
Yeah. John Pritt talking about the Bowman Gray deal, probation from racetracks is more of a publicity action than a punishment.
Yeah.
Sometimes. I mean, sometimes you're just reacting, because people, are reacting, but I don't know, man. I mean, here we are, and there's another element to this. There was, I believe, Short Track Scene. I had this video, one of the Lee Pulliam crew members shoulder checked. I don't know if it was Phillip or one of Phillip's crew members or exactly how that went down. And, Phillip's in the video saying that he's going to press charges and, other stuff. So why didn't this guy get a penalty?
Right.
So, I mean, there's a whole lot lost in this. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't.
If it happens in the pits, it's not nearly the same deal.
Well, I mean, I'm for that, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Lloyd Garner, yeah, you called me on the phone a minute ago. I'm glad I already started too, since you were coming to Statesville. I'm not really sure how that was going to work out. But Skeeter Bowes brings up the NASCAR official just standing there and listen.
No.
That right there, I don't know how any official, and I've worked as an official, at my own races,
I know and you ain't running.
Well, no. But the
big man to big man action right there. He busted on you.
The thing about it is like that official, like he's getting all kinds of heat.
Yeah.
But what the hell's he going to do?
Yeah.
Right.
Why would he ever think in a million years that Forrest is going to run out there?
This has never happened before.
First of all, his pit is right there, okay? Maybe, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 yards, 50 yards, whatever the number is from there. So, I mean, he's right there at it. So, what's he going to, what's he going to think that he's going to come down there? I mean, in my eyes, when I started watching the video, before I seen it all the way through, I'm like, oh, Forrest is going to throw his hands up. No, he ain't just going to throw his hands up. He's going to take off out there and throw his radio and everything else. And, Forrest said, maybe I should have threw my radio from the pits. I mean, well, maybe you should have.
That's what I thought he was going to do until he snapped, because I think he reacted to what he thought maybe was a hand gesture or something that set him off.
Well, that's said
kind of what it looked like.
Right. He said that he was I don't know. I don't know how to explain. He said that the closer he got to his pit, he said he had no intentions of going there. And I have to take him at his word. And he just got closer and closer and closer. And then he just, and then he seen what he thought was finger motion from Lee, which, I mean, I don't know.
What they call it last week, the rod?
It was something, that's for sure. Kenny Lang says that the immediate red flag was a contributing factor as well. That'd be something you can expand on there, Kenny. You were there, so I wasn't, so I'm not 100% sure. But a lot
the track was already under red flag, wasn't it? That's why they were sitting still.
This
correct?
has been good for late model stock, though.
Well, I think all publicity is good publicity.
Yeah, me too.
Okay? I mean, here we are, every week talking about, and we don't intend to, the doom and gloom. Here, this car count ain't good, and this ain't good, and that ain't good. Well, I mean, you can say this ain't good, but it's pretty good.
It's good.
You know what I mean?
It's exciting.
It's good.
I mean, it has people talking about it. I mean, every time we post on RACE22 something about South Boston, I mean, it just lights up like fire.
Right.
So I mean,
this is what I think. I mean, I don't think you should just say boys have at it, but that's kind of really, if you read in between the lines right here, what they said.
Well, that's not what NASCAR said, but that's what South Boston said.
Right. That's what I mean. I'm sorry.
In essence, between the drivers, anyways.
Right.
And
we're not going to fine you. Go at it, right?
And going back to what we were talking about a minute ago with the penalty on Forrest and whether he could show up somewhere else or whatever. Well, he can't show up at South Boston because from my understanding, we'll ask Cathy Rice about it, is that he is barred from the premises, period. So he cannot buy a ticket there. So, it says that Christina Meyer said that Peyton got fined $500 and put on probation, and so did Danny Willis. So
there you go.
Why do we have such different penalties? Is it because he's a crew member? There's got to be a reason why things are so much different in this instance. And I do think that there's a difference in having a crew member walk on the racetrack versus having a racer walk on the racetrack.
Well, but a racer's already on the racetrack, right? I mean, even if they crashed or getting out, they're doing whatever. I think we got to kind of protect it. If the racers want to fight it between themselves, I'm kind of okay with that. I think that's good for the sport to a little bit of a point. I'm not for people, mutilating other people or running their cars into each other or anything like that. But I am definitely for passion, and that's kind of what I think all this amounts to. There's a single person that would be turning in if they didn't have some passion for the sport, and that's what I think's great.
What do you think about one thing, and I've seen a couple of different people bring this up. Alan Sands brings up years ago you didn't get into pits without a NASCAR license. I mean, is that something that we're going to have to go back to in order for them to be able to control this situation?
That's the only way they can control it.
Right. I mean, but even then.
But here's the problem. The infrastructure at Hickory Motor Speedway.
Well, look, here's a scenario, okay? I've got a good scenario.
I'm going to sign in under the street stock thing, and they're never going to find me.
Well, that, and, even if you fill out your NASCAR paperwork at the racetrack, they got to send it in that week.
Yes.
So you're away with that night anyways.
Yes.
I mean, so unless somebody's going to snitch on you, it's just not.
There was a kid in Waterford, Connecticut that had a NASCAR license and was like 12, right? Because by the time he sent it in.
Right, sure.
Right, I mean, that's just the way that it works.
Sure. Frank, at Motor Mile Speedway, one of the Franklin County drivers, he took off and went up there and raced at 13 or something.
Right.
Before he could get a NASCAR license. And, of course, they just slapped him on the wrist afterwards. Yeah, blah,
that would be hard for the racetracks, so that's where I think their big hang-up's going to come. Right? I think their big hang-up's going to come because somebody will just go in and say, I'm non-licensed.
I agree.
The racetrack needs the revenue. They're not going to tell them no.
Yep.
They're not out there. It's not like you signing in at the Cup Series hauler where you have to show, ID and your license, and they're going to go after it.
Here's an interesting comment I figured I'd just bring up if I can find it here. No, but Deborah Lestra said that give all the drivers a taser
and a ring.
Oh man, wow, that's interesting. Michael Pierce asking if it hadn't have been Pulliam and Morris, South Boston would have penalized the drivers. I don't know that that's true. I don't think the drivers did anything, so I don't. I get that. Yeah, you're probably right. They are two money drivers. They draw in fans. Sure, I don't disagree with that. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure that that's the case. I don't think that they're looking to do anything to any driver, and I don't know why they would. I'm not sure I follow that one, but just waiting on Cathy Rice to text us and get with us. So she'll be on here in the next little bit. She had a previous engagement that she had to take care of before being able to come on. Gordon Martell asked, going forward, how do you prevent this from happening again? You have any answers there, Roger? You got any solutions?
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't.
You can't.
I don't know.
That's exact. I think there's so many holes, right? Like there's so many holes that you can't stop it.
I agree. Wholeheartedly.
Somebody snaps, it's going to happen. And this probably ain't the last time something like that is going to happen.
I think they're going to have to make an example out of someone.
I'm glad
they didn't make it out of Forrest, but I think somebody, they're going to have to make it. There's always one. There's always a.
And like they always say, before something happens, somebody's going to have to get hurt. I don't want to see it to get to that point.
Right.
I do not want to see anybody get hurt.
Right.
Everybody was getting real crazy with the tubing years ago, and punching behind the welds and doing whatever. Dave Fuge gets busted, gets lifetime ban, whoom, it all stops.
Right, sure.
Right? Nobody's doing that anymore because they don't want to lose everything. So I'm glad that it didn't, that this didn't lead to that, but somebody's going to have to get whacked pretty hard, and then it'll stop.
Yeah. All the drivers that I've spoke to feel more vulnerable in the car now.
Yes.
Every driver that I've spoke to since this has come out and most of them just through text message, and they're like, dude, I mean, what do I do now? I can't drive away now. So now they put them in an even worse box. So you just get the crap beat out of you, or get stabbed, or get whatever the case may be. I mean, and I know that's worst case scenario.
Yeah.
But Kenny Lang, following up on his comment from earlier about the red flag, he said the one car was against the wall in turn 3. He said they believe the field could have kept moving while the 0-1 was taken care of. And that's, quite possible. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but you can't go back after, it happened.
Right. Had this not happened, we'd have never had that conversation.
Right.
So,
Sure.
Kyle Manch said that he stated earlier on Facebook, and I did see that,
I did too.
that checks should be dispersed to all parties involved. People love drama. Yep. You're 100% correct about that. So
They do.
We'll be dialing up Cathy Rice here in just a moment. We'll get her on here, and
I'm interested to hear what she says.
got a few interesting questions for scenarios that I've run by here. But I think at the end of the day that this does expose one thing: the racetracks and NASCAR do not agree on
Right.
this one. South Boston does not agree with their decision. They did not want Lee Pulliam penalized, even though it will not keep him from coming to a race. So that wasn't the case there. So I think that's pretty interesting. Just reading through some of these
But
comments
where is the
here.
line drawn then? You and I spoke earlier, right? So if NASCAR is going to lay down a penalty and the NASCAR tracks aren't going to abide by it, no differently than, I guess, the rules situation, to be real honest with you, then we're just showing truly that beside insurance, so there's no other real reason for it, or?
Right.
I mean, I'm just...
Yeah, I don't know. Andy Marquis asked an interesting question here. He says, what if, after you require a NASCAR license, some Legends driver with an INX license steps on the track and causes a problem? Whole different scenario. Not all the races that take place at South Boston or any other track are NASCAR sanctioned. So, I mean, that doesn't fix it. Robert Tyler asking a good question here. He says the track has ultimate control when it comes to tech decisions, so why can't they have the ultimate decision when it comes to this situation? I don't need to pay others. Cathy, how are you?
Kathy, can you hear us?
All right, can you hear us?
Yes. Can
Okay.
you hear me?
Yep, got you 100% right now. Hey, thank you for joining us. I'm sure we'd rather have you on here under other circumstances, but we appreciate you taking time out of your evening to join us here.
Well, thank you for reaching out to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the first question that I've got for you is I want to know what the racetrack side of things from the accident occurring to Forrest going onto the racetrack and that whole scenario. Take us through what you guys' reaction to that was.
Okay. Well, actually, it's not really but one person that's involved in this whole thing, and that is Mr. Reynolds himself. That actually, when we were under red flag after a wreck with the 01, which was Philip Morris, Forrest took it upon himself to go out and go on the racetrack. He threw his radio
Right.
at the windshield of the 5 car, Lee Pulliam. And once he did that, he went around to get into the passenger side of the race car. And when he did, Lee, I'm assuming, and I feel sure, to protect himself, pulled off to keep Forrest from, I guess his intentions, I don't know what his intentions were, but I'm sure that he was to disable the car.
Sure.
So that the 5 car could not continue.
Right. I mean, and we've seen this play out at South Boston before with Peyton Sellers a couple of years ago. What makes this scenario, because Peyton's penalty obviously wasn't as much as Forrest, what makes this scenario different?
Well, when a driver's in a race car, how they are strapped in. They barely can move. Their focus is on straight ahead. They have spotters to help them, cars coming up beside them, behind them, or whatever. So they're focused on straight ahead. So I'm sure that Lee, at that point, did not know what was happening until Forrest actually got into the other side of the car. And I'm sure he didn't know whether he was going to hurt him or disable the car or what was going on. So his first reaction is just like anybody else's, and I tell my officials, who's the most important person there that day is you. And so you want to protect yourself.
Right.
And that's what he did.
Right. I know you guys weren't happy with, according to your release, you guys weren't exactly thrilled with the way NASCAR leveled the penalties. I guess you guys did not want a penalty against Lee Pulliam because you didn't feel that the actions, required that. So explain to me what your side of what you guys wanted done from a penalty aspect and what the conversation with NASCAR was like.
Well, what we did, actually, we sent in to NASCAR, and as I said from the very beginning, this is all about Mr. Reynolds. It's not about anybody else that was there.
Right.
I am very sorry it happened. I'm very happy that he's not hurt. But we sent in a recommendation to suspend Forrest from South Boston Speedway and fine him $1,000. And also we're going to suspend him for even being a fan at South Boston Speedway too, because what he did was a little bit different. He was actually, you couldn't calm him down. Normally our officials can go to that person that is heated at the time if something happens, and they can say, okay, let's calm down, let's go back to the hall and let's talk about this, and they do. Well, this incident, it wasn't that way. It was no calming him down, and we saw that. So Nick and I we both got together, and we both decided that we would suspend him for indefinite and fine him $1,000.
Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But did the actions, previous, the 2 weeks before that, Forrest and his crew got into it there in the pits, and he took off and left the track. Did that play into the decision at all?
Not at all, because I didn't even know about that, and I think that was internal. Right. None of that happened as far as I knew about until the fact that we're doing what we're doing, and that had no play into this at all.
Gotcha. And I heard you mention that Forrest was suspended there, as a fan, competitor, whatever. How long is that?
Right now it's indefinite, and, we will revisit that at the time, and Nick and I will get together and see see how things come along throughout the year. But right now it's through this year.
Gotcha. A lot of your official that was standing over there in turn one where the incident took place has taken a lot of heat, for fans on social media and so forth have said that he just stood there. Having, worked at a racetrack, my entire life, I mean, I understand that he wasn't just standing there, but tell me what conversations you guys have had with that particular official or any other about how things went down, and is there anything different you guys can do?
Well, first of all, I want to say one thing. My officials that are working for me at the track, they don't do it for a living. And second of all, most of the ones that I have is because of the friendship I have. And he did not just stand there. He done what he was supposed to do. We have been told so many times that we cannot put our hands on a competitor or crew member or anything. And in this day and time, you can't, because we don't know what lawsuits will come out of it. But he did not stand there. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. And so, and there we go back to what I just said at the beginning of this conversation is, who is the most important person there? He's going to protect himself as well, just like Lee did. He protected himself.
Right, sure. And in the situation with Lee, I'm sure you guys have had extensive conversations with NASCAR since you didn't want him penalized. Through those conversations, what have you established that Lee should have done?
He didn't do any more than anybody else would have done, and that was to get out of someone's way that was actually not knowing what he was going to do. And you don't know what this person would have done. So I can't say he did any more than anybody else would have done, or I have done, or any of us. And that's the reason that it has taken so long for us to, for NASCAR to come to a decision, and for us to come to a decision. We knew what our decision was. the penalty was on Forrest Reynolds. Nobody else should have gotten any penalties or anything from this, because we know what happened. We were there. We saw it.
Right. But going forward, what is expected of a driver to do going forward, given that this has been, a penalty given to Lee by NASCAR? Let's say the same scenario happens again at the next race with another, group of drivers. What should the driver that has somebody climbing in their window or attacking them or whatever the scenario is do?
The only thing I can say is protect yourself. And that's what I would do. I've been in this sport for so many years, and naturally you're going to protect yourself. You're not going to let somebody come in or try to destroy you or destroy your personal property or destroy you. So you're going to protect yourself, and that's what I would say. You're going to have to protect yourself, because if you don't do it, who's going to do it?
Right. I understand that completely and totally. I did notice in the video that, talking about the officials not grabbing one another, I did notice after Forrest, came down off the track, one of the officials that was, I believe, in the pace car looked like he had a different uniform on, might have been a modified official. I noticed that he did grab to get a hold of Forrest, and Forrest looked like he nearly turned around to, take a swipe at him or something, thinking it was somebody else. But, is there, in that situation, did that official, act according to what you expect?
Well, that was, and you're right, that was a modified official that was helping us out that night, because we did have the Whelen modified tour there and just ran the late models as well. So I think when that official did what he did, he felt the same way. I mean, this guy was, so mad at the time. He didn't know. And I'm sure Mr. Reynolds knew that it was official, but I do believe that he thought that, he could do the same thing. And maybe, I don't know. I don't know what his thoughts were, because I'm not in his head, so I don't know. But the official that helped us there was one that's on a tour series. And yes, they did help us out, and we do appreciate that, because we definitely need more officials. We don't have people in line to be officials. It's a hard job, and like I said at the beginning, they don't do it to make a living.
Right.
Cathy, Roger Johnson, I just have a question. When this happens from time to time, where you consult with NASCAR about what a penalty should be or shouldn't be, would that be a correct statement?
I'm sorry, you were cutting out. I didn't.
You consult with NASCAR when something like this happens, that occurs at your racetrack. You consult with NASCAR about what you think the penalty should be. Correct?
We send in the recommendation of what we think it's going to be.
Most of the time, do they go with you, or do they go off on their own?
No, most of the time, like I said, we send in, because we're there. We see what happens. And we send in what we recommend for them to help us.
Sure.
Now, we're under the NASCAR sanctioning body.
Sure.
So, and we have a rule book. We go by the NASCAR rule book. And so we send in what we recommend them to do. And to answer your question, no, they don't change anything. They all, they actually are in favor of what we're doing here with Mr. Reynolds. There is no question here about that. And so that's, they are going along with what we're basically doing with Mr. Reynolds.
Okay. I just wondered if over time you had seen this handled any differently than some of the other. I know it's a unique situation and has been handled differently. I was just interested if most of the time does NASCAR take your professional opinion and say, yeah, we like what they're saying. They're the ones going to have to clean the mess up on the backside. Your track's dealing with all the ramifications of this happening. Yeah, we'll go with them. We think they're right. Or do they go down a path where they say, hey, we're big brother here. We're gonna select what we want to do?
Well, I don't know that they do that, but we, like I said, we only sent the recommendation on Mr. Reynolds. We did not send a penalty on Mr. Pulliam nor Mr. Morris. So that was done through NASCAR. And what we have done as far as the track is only through Mr. Reynolds.
Gotcha. As far as the penalty to Lee Pulliam that NASCAR issued, is there a reason? I mean, did you guys negotiate for it to only be till April 17th? Were they going to do it longer? How did that come down?
I can't answer that. That's something NASCAR put down, and that's something that I think you would have to get with NASCAR about.
Yeah, I just found it interesting that it was 3 days before your next race. That was the reason I asked. I didn't know if maybe you guys had as things were going along, you guys had some input there. I wasn't sure.
No, we did not. We only sent in a recommendation on Mr. Reynolds to suspend him for the remainder of the year with a $1,000 fine.
Right, and I know I asked you earlier about it being, what the difference between what Peyton did and what, Forrest Reynolds did. But to elaborate on that a little bit, going forward, will it still be treated differently if a driver gets into a wreck and then goes over to another guy's car, such as Peyton did? Will they get the same, $500 fine and probation, or will they get, the same type of penalty that Forrest got here?
I think you have to look at the situation. This guy, Mr. Reynolds, was uncontrollable. And as you saw that in the video, I think he actually would have, he didn't, which was a good thing. I think he would have raged out and could have hit the official, where I just said a few minutes ago, most of the time when we have someone to do something like that, the officials can calm them down. This guy was not, you could not calm him down at all. We had to escort him outside of the facility.
Right, I got you. One last question here. Given that it was, more of a national, event there with the modifieds, do you think that had any bearing on, because there were higher up officials there with the modified series, do you think that had any bearing on, the decision coming down, from NASCAR being different from what you guys suggested?
I don't, but that would be a NASCAR question as well, because, like I said, we only, as far as Mr. Reynolds, that's the one that we're serving the penalty on, not Mr. Pulliam nor Mr. Morris, and that would be a NASCAR question.
Gotcha. And I said that was the last question, but I got one more. It pertains to pit pass. Like he didn't have a NASCAR license, and I know in the past, or maybe my memory's not correct, but in the past it was for the extra pit pass was for working employees, and the people working on the car were expected to have a NASCAR license. Is that not the case? Explain that to me.
No, that's not true. We encourage everyone that goes into the pit area to purchase a NASCAR license. That's something, because we take a lot of pride in being under the NASCAR sanctioning body. So we encourage everybody to purchase a NASCAR license. In doing that, we do offer, if they don't, we offer a double of your price non-NASCAR sheet that they have to sign and pay $50 to get in. So they're better off to go on and buy their licenses. In the long run, it's much cheaper. He had not purchased his license, and we was not aware of that until all of this, happened. But he has held a license in the past for many, many years.
Right.
And so I'm sure he was going to purchase one, but to say when, I don't know.
Right. In that scenario, do you guys want to, have, people who, are working on the cars going forward? Do you want to have them have NASCAR licenses, or are you okay with the situation where it's at there?
Like I said, we encourage everyone to purchase a NASCAR license, but we have a non-member. You pay the price. If you're not going to come, but maybe once or twice throughout the year, then, they're going to pay that extra money, because it's much cheaper than purchasing a license. It's not cheap to buy a NASCAR license, but if you're going to come more than 2 times or so, they do purchase a license. I don't know why he had not. I'm sure that he was going to purchase one, but he just hadn't at the time. We've only had 2 races.
Gotcha. I understand completely. Well, we appreciate you taking your time to talk to us tonight, Cathy. I know you have other things to do other than talk about this, and we appreciate you taking your time. And I know, you guys got it going on up there at South Boston. I mean, with this or without this, that's the place to be to watch a race right now for sure.
Well, we thank you, and thank you for all your support, and we want to invite everybody out to our April the 20th race. We've got all divisions, our weekly divisions running that night, and it will be a night race, so it'll be our first night race, so we certainly want everybody to come out and join us.
Will there be a boxing ring set up for that
That'd
one?
be awesome.
No, I hope not. I can't promise you, but I'm going to say no. If you want to go to a wrestling match, I would suggest that you maybe go to Charlotte, Greensboro, somewhere like that. Maybe you can find wrestling matches out there. I don't know because I'm not into that, but I love racing. So hopefully we won't have anything like that because it definitely puts everybody in danger. Mr. Reynolds was very, very lucky that he didn't get hurt. And like I said, I'm very glad he didn't. And we want to put all this behind us and move on. And we'll see everybody out April the 20th.
All right, sounds good. Look forward to seeing you there. Thank you, Cathy.
All right, thank you too. Bye-bye.
Well, that was interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of, pretty much, she pretty much, told us. The thing about it is, you can tell that, they lay the blame 110% at the foot of, Forrest Reynolds, and I don't know that you can lay the blame anywhere else. Am I wrong? He's the guy who ran on the racetrack. I want to disagree with her, but I think she's right.
I don't know. I don't know. I think I don't know. He went on the racetrack.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
That's it. Right. He went on the racetrack. I don't know.
Right. And I know a lot of people, want to, ask, repeatedly here on the comments about, what the difference between it is. The difference, she spelled it out. It's a driver versus a crew member.
Right.
The difference is stark.
Right.
There's no, I asked the question and sort of rephrased it and tried to get it again. No. It's the same thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Same answer. Just formed differently.
There's a difference between a racer and a crew member. And there's certainly a difference between somebody who's licensed and not licensed. So, the difference is pretty clear here. For sure.
I think she got it right.
I think, the way that they wanted to handle it was right. Because, in talking to, some people, there, they didn't want to, penalize Phillip because, he was at the other end of the racetrack. There was no way that he could know that Forrest was going to go do that. You know what I mean?
Right. But you're responsible for your crew, so I'm sure Phillip understands that too. You know what I mean? I'm sure have you talked to him?
I have not talked to Phillip, actually.
I segued right into that, didn't I?
I texted him too, and ask him for interview comment, something today. Got ignored as usual. Phillip's not much into media. I've said this before. He's not much into media, social media, or anything else. In fact, when him and Jim Dean split up, I had to drive to Ruckersville to his shop or his business and interview him there. Which honestly, I ain't gonna lie. I'm thinking about going up there Tuesday.
Might be the only way.
So, if that's what I've got to do in order to get the story, then I guess that's what I'll do. Mike Lawhorn talking about the head-on not being mentioned. Mike, that's in the past, buddy. He got an indefinite suspension. He was suspended from February to May. What do you want to talk about? There's nothing in that scenario to talk about here. And I'm sorry to come off harsh, but there's nothing to talk about.
Right, I don't think
that is not part of this scenario. Forrest wasn't there, so this is not part of that scenario. This deal is not between Lee and Phillip in this instance. It is 100% between Lee and Forrest Reynolds. 100%.
Yes.
Jason Eggers commenting that at Hickory it says non-licensed members can't work on the race car. So that's an interesting difference.
Yeah, I saw that.
The text I got to bring that up was actually from a track owner. So I thought that was another interesting.
How do they
part.
ask Jason how they enforce that? I'm interested in how that happens.
Yeah, I don't know how they would do that. Maybe Kevin Piercy's watching tonight. I'm sure he is.
Right.
You know, he can tell us. I'm not sure.
I just don't know how you would enforce that, right?
Mike Robertson comment. He said, "Never grab a car, you'll lose."
Right. There's a guy that would know.
Yeah, he knows from experience. He was on Good Morning America and everything else from his grabbing onto Derek Stoltz's car, which we mentioned earlier is just a totally
Madhouse
Mike.
Mike. That's what it was. Madhouse Mike. That's what it was.
That's it. I mean, so it's just it's interesting. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that we necessarily got all the questions we were asking answered. I mean, I think they were they Cathy had her answers and she was ready to go there. So
yeah, and she stuck to a couple of them pretty good.
I got people in the industry texting me telling me how much they have to say about that interview, but they won't.
Right.
So,
that's the way it always works.
I got microphones sitting over here empty right now, so you guys are free to stop by and talk about it. But I mean, I just I tell you, this whole scenario. Talking to her about the going forward, I thought that was the most interesting part because going forward, she says that the driver needs to protect himself.
Right.
So is the driver going to be suspended every time? It's not her call. I get it.
No, right.
She's telling them the truth, and she's talking about telling the officials to protect themselves. That's 100% correct.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
yes.
I always told my officials, if somebody got into a fight, don't you dive in.
Right.
Don't you be an idiot.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't want you a
I
part
think
of that.
Kevin Piercy has told me that's the whole reason he pays for the police to be there.
Oh, sure.
Because he tells his officials, you get back and let them handle it, and they maintain order pretty quick.
James Major here got an interesting question. Would it have been different if it were two drivers knowing their history? Yes, it would have been different. It would have been different because it wouldn't have been a crew member walking out on the racetrack. So, I mean, I think that's the part that would have been different, and I think she explained that fairly well. I know people didn't want to take that as an answer, but I mean that's just the way it is.
And she did say the difference was the rage
she did.
that was displayed by
Right.
Forrest
But
versus
here's the
Peyton.
bad part, right? Hold on. Here's the bad part. That's a judgment. Right, that's a judgment because I can
That
say
very
one
well
thing to
could be,
you
yes.
and you can melt like an ice cream cone and I completely freaked out on you. And then I say something to Langley and he laughs and flips me off back and everybody's joking.
Right.
Right, so I'm cool that we got it, that he was mad. But, I mean, at a certain point, right, I think it's kind of, to what extent, right? You don't know. You can't. I mean, he was pissed. Sure. He's trying to win a national championship again.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm going for. Sure, I'm pissed.
And we talked about it earlier. The pressure of continuing to win at that level has got to be extreme for a guy like Forrest.
What did I tell you?
Well, you said that you were a crackhead or something. I
Don't
don't know.
say that. No, I'm saying that I wouldn't. I don't think I would sell Philip Morris a car.
Right.
I don't honestly. Not that he would want it, but I'm telling you, I wouldn't sell him a car because I could do nothing but lose. Because you're with the greatest of all time, right? Or right now, and what can you do? He has to. If he doesn't win every week, are they blaming Philip?
No.
Not a shot.
No, they know he can still drive.
Right.
Right. 100%.
So I don't think people understand the level of commitment that this guy. And I don't want to sound like I'm sticking up for him, but I guess I kind of am. I was a guy that kind of lived that life, right? You go through it and you put your passion behind it, and you make some poor choices, and you do. It's the way it works. This is a pressure-based environment with people with a lot of money that expect things from you that aren't necessarily always obtainable, and they compete at a high level, and that's it.
Right.
If you're not anybody that's competed at a high level that has almost broke, and I don't mean broke financially, I mean broke mentally, is an interesting way to go about it.
I think you got some cats out here
there's
fornicating or
dogs.
something. I'm not really sure what the heck's going on back here. We got the
chickens.
doors open. It's
Beautiful weather, got all the garage doors open.
This is what happens when
Sounds
you're in
like
the
a
middle of
cat
the
house.
hood at 8 o'clock at night.
Well, you are.
What time is it?
7:30.
Same difference.
You are
Yes, sir.
definitely in the middle of the hood.
Right. We haven't heard any
for
gunshots,
sure.
so that's been.
Yeah.
It's early. It'll get dark, and then they start shooting.
We're in a gated community.
We are.
We
My
are
gate
that,
of
for
the
sure.
shop. That's it.
Right. Kenny Lang chiming in says this one thing, rivalry renewed. There's no doubt about that. That Phillip and Lee, the rivalry is as strong as ever.
Yes.
Hopefully,
Let me
hopefully
ask
both
you
of them
this.
race the next race.
Does Force play a big force in that rivalry between
Right now,
Right.
yeah.
before that?
What do you mean?
Yeah, toward
He-
the end,
because-
toward last year, yeah, for sure. I mean, and the fact that he got with Phillip got with Forrest, and he's just been dominant.
He's been dominant.
Yes.
I mean, he's been absolutely dominant since then. Kyle Manch chiming in said that dashes back in cars now hiding wires. I knew it would come around 360,
Yeah,
and I remember this all happening.
Yeah.
When they went to having it open and all. Robert Tyler says rage could also be called passion. Sure,
Agreed.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, I mean, yes, it's passion, and I don't know the exact scenario. I wasn't there. I wasn't one of the officials trying to calm him down. I don't know the exact scenario, so I can't really speak to anything. Thomas Bean chiming in about his hero.
His hero for sure.
He calls him
Yep.
God Phillip. I'm not really sure about that one, but
That's what he wants to be when he grows up.
yeah, I mean, he's only 4'4", so maybe one day he will grow up. Linda Haney says it's publicity for South Boston, 100%.
For sure.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, it's good
No-
for. I
no
think it's
doubt
good for
about
the
that.
sport, the whole thing.
Troy Mason chiming in talking about differences between Phillip and Lee. He said that Phillip went to Langley Speedway and owned it. Lee struggled there. Yeah, that is true for sure. I mean, there's some differences between those two guys, but I mean, you can put them in the same category as being great because anywhere they go, they have the potential to win.
Correct.
I mean, Lee's only raced twice at Orange County this weekend, and I'd say that anybody you ask, you'd say, yeah, he's probably got a pretty good chance to win the 30,000 to win race at Orange County
He's
this weekend.
smart. He just lingers and lingers and lingers and works on his stuff and works on his stuff, and I mean, it's just the way it works.
Right.
You watch him, Bubba Pollard, some of them guys say they're
Yeah,
methodical.
I view both of those guys. They're good because they're at where they want to be.
Right.
They want to be great late model stock. They don't
Sure.
have an agenda past that.
Sure.
And I think that plays a difference because they're focused exactly on what they're doing right now, every
Right.
year.
Right, I agree. And I think it's interesting to watch those two guys because, like, Phillip's great at high grip racetracks. Like, he's exceptional. He excels at those. And he's not so good at other places, whereas Lee's pretty good there, you know what I mean? But he's pretty good everywhere else, too. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting, dynamic between the two of those for sure. Greg Marlowe says every action has a reaction. Greg Marlowe on vacation,
Yeah, I think I'm surprised he's sipping a Mai Tai or something. I
Yeah,
think.
he must be. I don't know. He's at the beach or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's Troy Mason says definitely both great drivers. Can't argue that. No doubt about it. Jeff Elliott says as a former official, played a part in it. Track has more than one racing groove. Drivers need to learn to race. Well, I mean, they race pretty good there at South
I think
Boston.
they raced real
mean,
good.
Yeah.
I think
You
up
know.
until that point, it was going to get juicy.
Well, and
Right? Like-
and the thing about it is, you watch the video and you listen to what Lee had to say. I mean, Lee felt like Phillip got into him, so he got back into him. Did he dump him? I mean, obviously he wrecked, so yeah, he dumped him. But
Yeah.
I mean, did he mean to? I have no idea. I mean, he says he
Nobody
didn't.
knows.
So he says that Phillip lifted early, and maybe he did. I don't know. Kerry Harden says, "Boys, have at it. Just keep your crews off the track." I
Right.
would say that's a pretty good idea there, for sure.
But if you put your crew on the track, there's nothing we can really do.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he doesn't have a NASCAR license,
Right.
we really can't do
But
a whole
even if
lot
he does
about
have a
it.
NASCAR license, what are you going to do?
And that's the Forrest is pretty recognizable. A
100%.
lot of racetracks that he goes to will know him, but not every racetrack.
doesn't-
And I'll
but
use
wait,
this as an example.
It don't matter.
If he walks into Anderson Motor Speedway Friday night, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Let's say Phillip goes to Anderson. He's not, but let's say he does. If he goes to Anderson Friday and Forrest walks in with him, who there's going to know?
Let's say Forrest goes with another customer.
Right.
He goes with another customer. Let's get it all straight how it worked. It cost Lee $1,500. It cost Phillip $1,000.
Right.
And Forrest can't go to South Boston anymore.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Game over.
Right. I agree.
I mean, that's it.
I think it'll be interesting to see
I
how the
I
other
thought the same
racetracks are
thing
going to handle it.
about Scott Rakes' comment right here. Maybe Phillip's foot slipped, like Frank Denny's did. I thought the exact same thing 2 minutes ago, and that was funny that showed up in the comment. That was great.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. It's, Robert Tyler says, let's ask McCall if he thinks he dumped him. I'm 100% sure that Matt McCall would agree.
I'm 100% sure.
Right. No doubt about that.
I did have a question. Where did the radio go? Did it survive? How far did it go?
I asked about that, and they said that it got destroyed. So
I'm sure
how it got destroyed, I'm not really.
I mean, he roundhouse.
I mean, but like,
yeah, look, I
was a
want to know the
windmill.
distance. That
hitting
could have
the
been
windshield,
and then ricocheted.
I mean, that didn't do any damage to it. I think it did damage to the windshield.
Yeah, that was a.
That was a hell of a throw.
Dude, he windmilled that thing all the way around.
Yeah, point blank.
I've only ever seen that done one time before. Larry Jones. I saw Larry Jones at Kingsport, Tennessee. He did one that exploded into 1,000 pieces. But other than that, I've never seen a real good one like that. That was a good one.
Robert Tyler says it's stuck in a tire. He's probably Oh, man. Thomas Bean chiming in, talking about being responsible for your crew. And, I mean, that is something that, you know, they say at every driver's meeting. You know, you're responsible for your crew members. And, you know, I get it. But what do you think about the difference in the two penalties from NASCAR? Okay, you give $1,000 to Philip Morris, and you give $1,500 to Lee Pulliam. I'm not sure that I understand
That's the only thing I'm saying. I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand how they get to the 1,500.
So they don't take exactly what South Boston, Cathy and that group recommended. So did NASCAR not release a statement as to why?
Have you seen one?
No.
Because I have not. So no.
To me, that's a problem.
Which is pretty typical of the way they do business, though. They do not release, they do not release a statement with penalties typically. That is not how they do business.
I'm just interested in how much the racetrack actually gets to play into it. Like, that's what I was trying to get
clearly,
to.
Cathy says that typically they do.
Right.
But in this instance, they did not.
Right.
So and that was the holdup of why it was supposed to come out Tuesday.
But that's
the big question right now.
That's the question. Yep. The question is, and that's what I was trying to get to, do they normally follow the projection that you give? And if they, why didn't they this time? Right. Like, what's different about this scenario? Does that happen with Hickory? Does Hickory get to suggest what they want done? And then, hey, they make a deal, and this is what it is, and NASCAR goes with it? Or, you know what I mean? Does it end up like this?
Right. I totally agree. I mean,
Dustin Rumley.
Right. And Dustin Rumley says that he hears Forrest sign with the Atlanta Braves after that throw.
Yeah, they need some mental relief. Trust me.
Good to see Dustin Rumley back too. I know he had a bad deal, couldn't race there the first race at Ace, but it's good to see him back racing again.
Yeah, I was told earlier that all the tracks got an email today with the reason why they were penalized. I haven't seen that email, so maybe it'll be in my inbox by the time I get off this radio show.
Are you a racetrack?
Well, I mean, I'm not at the moment, but I think the thing about that deal, if they told the racetracks, if they explained to the racetrack, they need to explain to everybody,
right?
Because at this point, people are spun out about why this is going on. Yeah. Why the penalty was levied the way it was. And there's some people who
I don't understand.
And I've read through the comments, and I think you have too.
I told you I read 189 comments, and I know no more now than I did before.
No, you know less.
Well, but people think that the overwhelming amount that I got was that people thought that Lee kind of got hosed on the fine, and the rest of the people seemed to be kind of okay with what happened.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody really is bitching about Phillips' fine. You didn't see that really. You saw more people just can't figuring out what happened, why Lee would be fined $1,500.
Right.
And I gotta say that I kind of agree with the overwhelming amount. Why that amount, number one? Why for defending himself, number two?
We should have invited Thomas Bean up here.
He's got to work on his stuff. He's too...
I mean, he should have left his car here so he could work on it, while talking to us. We didn't drug a radio over.
I'm going to tell you this.
Microphone
Put a headset on.
I want to tell you this.
Yeah.
This is the truth. I told him that he could leave it here, and I would hang the right side on it for him.
No. You told him that one of your people would hang the right side on it.
Correct.
Because you were not.
Hey, I ground that 95 car the other day.
Yeah, only because you seen him coming up on the video.
No, I even finished grinding it, too, when they weren't around, yeah. Thomas wanted to do it himself. How do you blame a guy that wants to do it himself?
Hey, he was out there
He looked at
wrenching
me
Monday.
and he said, "I want to do it myself."
He's
Don't
the
do it.
first driver that I've seen that has the perspective of if someone gets in your car, sit there. If you take off and kill them, you're going to be going to jail for a long time. So, I mean, if the guy has a knife or if the guy is attacking you or if the guy,
but the guy could have a knife in the middle of the pits and stab you. So I think that's a.
Sure.
I mean, I think that I don't.
But, I mean, if he goes to grab you,
I
you're
mean, how
probably
many
gonna
stories we
pull
heard
back.
about the pits of Bowman Gray with knives and guns
the
and
bad
everything
part
else?
is,
So,
Franklin
some of
County.
this is making me look like a liar because I always thought that inside the race car was probably the safest place at the racetrack that you could be, because they got to get to you, right? You could crash, but they still got to get to you. And I think it's easy to get hit in the pits, in the face.
Yep.
Right.
Ask
Blindsided.
Zach Brunninger.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Or you could use another driver as a weapon.
don't read that out loud, but...
Read it.
Yeah.
Read
but I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. What a racer's
I
going to do.
agree with that, by the way.
Yeah, figured you might. What are racers to do though? I mean,
Right.
that's the part that puzzles me the most. Okay,
Right.
okay. If you're not supposed to pull off and get away from the guy, what are you supposed to do? We need somebody from NASCAR who's probably not going to come on this show, and I don't know. I don't know that we're going to get an answer. And, I don't think South Boston, based on her response, I don't
She
think
didn't
South
have one.
Boston was given one.
She didn't.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
She went back to the script then, and that's okay. I mean, I appreciate her coming on. To be honest,
Oh, absolutely.
I think I suggested her one time before to come on, and you said that I would have no shot of getting her on here. I thought,
Well.
and I was proud that she not through me, but I was
Yeah.
proud that she came on. I think that was great.
Scenario,
Yep.
it
Worked out.
changes everything.
Yep.
So I mean, we definitely wanted to have somebody from South Boston on, and I mean, as far as it goes, she's top brass. I mean, she's not the owner, but she's as far up
Close
as you
as
can
you
get
can
without
get.
being the owner.
Right.
So, and I mean, I appreciate what she had to say. I mean, I think that she's right on all aspects of everything that she talked about.
And you could hear in her voice she was not happy with NASCAR.
Oh,
that they went away from what she
Yeah.
recommended.
Yeah.
And you can't tell me that's not passion.
Oh, for sure. I
mean,
mean, she's been doing this for
Cathy,
31
yeah,
years.
Wait a minute.
Class.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
I've been in and out of the sport
She
for
got
a
a
long
little
time,
steam,
and
bud.
she still made me feel welcome last time I went up there. I mean,
Right.
total class all the way through.
right. I agree. I agree 100%. Oh, Kenny Lang says, what would that somebody be from NASCAR at this moment? Well, I mean, there's plenty of people at NASCAR. I mean, there's, Les
on-
Westerfield. He's, I guess, I think he's still
He's the
interim
K&N
guy
guy, I
over
thought,
top
ain't he?
of this. Yeah, I believe he is.
Look for your buddy at Walmart next time. Ask him.
I don't think
He's
Lynn.
out.
I don't think Lynn can help me.
I think he's hunting.
He might have moved on to fishing by now. So, or maybe he's getting ready for Martinsville. I'm not really sure.
Is he coming back?
I don't know,
Is
man.
that the rumor?
That's another
If
good
he
question.
is, then you won't be.
Yeah, actually, that's quite possible. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you that.
After the
quite-
viral video.
We'll all sit together up on the high,
I am
Turn one.
I am prepared not to be allowed into Martinsville this year.
Could
so,
happen.
I mean,
Could happen.
I came back and joined the wrong crew.
There's been better
It's,
people kicked out than you.
It'll be interesting for sure. Doodle Lang, who's a Mod 4 racer at Motor Mile Speedway, says that if he wanted to fight, he should have waited till the race was over. Forrest could have stayed in the pits and waited on him if he had any balls.
Wow.
And Doodle been known to fight a few times in his
Yep.
life, So him and Doug Williams and Mike Looney and Matt Taylor and all
Wow.
those guys.
You
we
just
used
brought
to.
complete context to that whole
Yeah,
deal right
yeah,
there.
Dean Canada. I mean, they used to brawl back in the day.
Yeah.
So it was good times at Franklin County for sure. Now he races at Motor Mile. But I mean, I think they're right. I mean, I think everybody, chiming in tonight, talking about. I think you guys are, I think you guys are on the pulse, here. I mean, I think we got a lot of really smart people on here, which is unlike some
What
of
does
our other
Philip do
posts
now?
on here.
So if Forrest can't go to South Boston, what does Philip do now?
Well, I don't know. I mean, technically, the way that the thing's sent out, he can't go to any NASCAR racetrack. I mean, that's and it
Who?
says that if he's caught there, and go back to your scenario a minute ago.
To Forrest, you mean?
This is an interesting one. Okay, let's
There's
say,
no way.
listen, let's say, you're right. Let's say Forrest decides to go to the track with Ryan Repko. Okay?
He should,
just
yes.
use that as an example. Okay, it's one of his customers.
Yep.
He goes to the racetrack. Let's say he goes to Motor Mile. Okay.
Yep.
I believe Ryan Repko's running 5 or 6 races or something up there. So he goes there. It says in that release from NASCAR that if he goes to the racetrack, that Philip Morris will be fined. So if he goes to the racetrack with somebody else, Philip Morris will be fined? Explain that one to me.
Ow.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think there's any way they can enforce any of it. I think it's good.
Wow.
Yeah, I Thomas Bean, Philip wins. You're right. He does. I don't think there's any way for him to enforce any of it. I think it's let her go.
Matt Taylor chiming in with one of the original
Yeah.
slogans, which he came
Matt
up
Taylor.
with. We need to get him back, man. I guess, I believe he was at South Boston this past weekend. I believe I seen a picture of him. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe he'll tell us.
Good guy.
Preston McGee says, careful with the rage. That's called conjecture. Sure it is. If that's what you see, then, you call it like you see it. that's...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Everybody has a different...
It's just like the fandom glasses. You got the 5-car on one
Preston's
side, the 01 on
passionate
one
about
side. Everybody's seen the same thing, but you got two different versions.
Oh, 100%.
So there's no difference in the interpretation of what we're talking about. But the person that writes, that reports, that's the only opinion that matters.
Right. Jeff Elliott chiming in said, thanks for a good show. First time hearing it. Jeff, be sure to check us out every Monday. We, dance around with the time every week. It's either 6 or 6:30 or 7. Or I think we're going to have a midnight show sometime coming up if I can talk Doc into
There's
it.
also fireworks in the neighborhood, if you know what I mean. It's called gunfire, but we
like
say
we used to do out in the country in Virginia, gunfire, New Year's Eve.
Oh, man. It's good stuff. Preston McGee says him and Matt Taylor should be a guest on the 15th.
I think we need to redo that original.
I don't think we have enough alcohol.
No, was it Mike?
Yeah, if Mike
Looney?
comes, we definitely don't have enough alcohol.
We have to do that. Was a great show, and it was 10 years ago. What was it? Mike Looney,
Matt Taylor, and Preston McGee.
Yeah, and nobody left sober.
And one of those fools drove.
Right? They were. It was probably one of the top. It was unbelievable. Yeah,
and Preston drove while texting me. Okay? that was not a good.
But that was 10 years ago. They've grown up quite a bit since then, I'm sure.
Well, I don't.
Why does everybody look at me at one time? I wish we had video right there. Wow.
Let's not get carried away.
Wow.
Matt might have grown up. Preston and Mike, no. Pretty sure of it. Says Lee Pulliam's listening now, so you missed all the excitement, Lee. And we'd love to talk to you on the phone, man. Hit me up. We'll interview you right here, right now. We'll give you about 5 minutes on the show.
Hey,
I know you're busy.
My kickstand.
Matt Taylor said, by the way, Preston, if you climb in my car, your big ass is going for a ride. That's why I miss him. That's amazing, right? Like, that's funny no matter what.
Oh, man, right.
He just don't give a damn. That's what's awesome.
Jesus. You got to love it.
Right.
It's fun times for sure.
Yep. That's what the sport needs. A lot of the guys that, coming back around. Like, I know everybody's so down on this and piss on this guy and piss on this guy. This is it, right? Like, if you're a late model stock car fan, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. If this doesn't, like, fire you up, you should stop.
Don't tell me South Boston ain't gonna have a full house.
Right. If
their
this
next
doesn't,
race.
if you're not like, holy cow, I hope they touch again.
Right.
Like not even spin each other. Like I cannot wait till he gets underneath this quarter. Then you're not a fan. You might as well stop, sell your stuff, forget what you're doing, go buy a camper, go to one of these RV parks and hang out in the weekend because it's just, this is good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's good for South Boston. It's good for short track
racing.
The
anticipation of that, what you just talking about.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what it's all about.
Right.
100%. The going on the racetrack's not good, but everything else is great.
But the one thing that I think that we need to focus on a little bit more, and this is my softer side coming out, I'm glad nobody got hurt. Right? Like this, I don't think people understand how close we are to something bad could have happened.
Right.
So the only thing I give two damns about coming out of this is that we find some resolution to make it not happen again.
Right.
Like, I'm cool with them saying, hey, this is our small penalty. Here's what's going to happen. But listen, if you go on the racetrack, that's it. You're out. You're never coming back again. You're donezoed. There has to be a line drawn in the sand. Okay, this happened. We didn't really have a precedent. Hey, we're not going to make a guy that's contributed to the sport completely pay the price, but there has to be some price paid, I think.
Right.
Because if not, this could easily get way out of
Track
control.
surface has got to be out of bounds.
Yeah, right. I'm telling you, because the next thing, mark my words, the next thing will happen is dads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many drivers come in here.
Now that
older
the
guys.
drivers are getting younger and younger.
Correct. Listen to
there
me.
you
I'm
go.
telling you. So many of the drivers from, let's say 25, who's a middle-aged guy now, right? Like 30 to 50, that's, what are they going to do?
Right.
That's their biggest concern. Young guys.
Right. For sure.
If the dad comes out and the dad's wanting to fight you, what are you going to do?
Right. Austin Thaxton says to put a boxing ring in the infield.
Yeah, I like
No,
that
right
idea.
outside turns 1 and 2, like the good old days
I
of
like that idea.
fast Franklin County Speedway.
I was trying to suggest that to
Yeah,
Cathy, but
she
she
didn't.
didn't.
She
She was
didn't
going
like
for all that.
I don't think she appreciated that, to be honest.
I mean, you know,
When she went into complete Virginia mode, then you knew she locked down, right? Like
Virginia.
she couldn't
That was a
understand
good
a word I said.
Well, I mean, let's be honest.
There you go. I'm just saying.
Listen. I'm from Virginia. I struggle to understand what you're saying.
I
too.
know. It's just part of the gig. Barrier of communication.
Oh man. Well, change the subject a little bit here, just to break this up a little bit. Man, 30,000 to win this weekend in Orange
30,000.
County. We got the entry list on Tuesday. 39 cars strong. Not 100% sure that there'll be 39 for sure, just based on couple conversations, couple guys, may or may not run in the race. I know that Jessica.
I don't care. It's still a win.
I know that Jessica Can's been on the entry list for every race and hasn't been to any of them yet. Not 100% sure if she's racing this weekend. Maybe. Heard that Jason York would not be running this weekend, so we'll see.
Yeah, but I think it's good anyway, right? Like I don't care if 35 show up.
Oh, I don't think it matters.
I don't either.
As long as there's 28 and there's a 28 vest, it doesn't make any difference.
And that's that's kind of my point behind a lot of it. I don't really care what the number is. I think the racing will be amazing. I think weather's going to play a little part early on in the week, especially because we haven't had a lot of testing already. I don't know if people can clarify to me. Justin Carroll was in here today and picking up a few things, and I talked about him testing on Wednesday. He told me he thought the track was only open Wednesday and was closed today.
Yeah, I think so.
And tomorrow, so with that just being that short early testing time, and if we get some rain, like they're calling 100% for Friday. Right now we put things in a smaller box, and it's the one thing that I didn't necessarily appreciate that I would say that I would have liked to have seen different is that I can't believe it's such a late start on Sunday.
What time does it start? 3 o'clock?
Yeah, I think it was 3 or 3:30.
I don't really think that's a late start.
Yeah, but by the time you have the race,
Green flag at 3 o'clock.
Right.
Because they got a fan
it's
fest
gonna be
too.
pretty long.
Fan fest starts at 1.
It's
Right
only
after
200
1.
lap race.
Okay, I'd have liked to seen it go a little earlier. Just my own personal. I like to be home and in bed. And I got to work.
Let's just go on and be honest. You're not even going to be there.
I'll be there.
There's no chance.
I'll be there.
There's no chance.
What are you betting?
There's just no chance.
I've been here 2 nights till 11. What are you betting? I'll take your action.
I mean, it's just not happening. I'm just going to go with that. It's just not happening, man.
You're tough on me about these damn
I'm
races.
telling you. But, man, the entry list looked really good. Unfortunately, Bubba Pollard's not going to make it, to run in the race. One of the guys that was supposed to have been holding a camper spot for him told me that he had let them know that he wasn't going to make it. So I believe that means he won't be there for sure. So that's unfortunate. Today on the website, talked about Barry Beggerly.
Saw this, good.
We got the king, but
king.
he's the GOAT.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He's the guy. I don't know how much. I'm not 100% sure, Eric, how much money he needs. To make it out there this weekend. Hope he gets whatever he needs.
Sure.
Good dude.
Do we have any ways we can get people to get in touch with him if they want to help him out, or Facebook? What are you doing?
That's a good question.
That's a big thing, right? I think people are willing to do some things and help. I don't know if they know how.
Yeah, I think Patrick Coleman asked me to start a GoFundMe earlier. I wouldn't even know where to begin. I'd have to sit down and figure that one out. So I don't know anything about those. But
I've never done that.
I don't know. But hopefully that'll work out. I'm sure there's some people that have read that or seen that could do something.
Right.
For Barry, get him in the race.
So how are you gonna get him to him?
I mean, if somebody seriously wants to do something, hit me up. I'll make sure that you get in touch with him.
You'll make the connection.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Elliott chiming in says He says, "Okay, I'm wrong for saying this." That's probably a bad way to start.
Right out of the rip.
When I worked at New Hampshire track, told police if the fight in the pits, cuff and stuff them. If two drivers are on the track, give them 10 minutes. Cop asked why. I said I can put fans in the stands and get money flowing in the town. Cop was okay with that.
100%.
Sure.
Right.
I mean that's how it works, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all there to see a race, but if something extracurricular breaks out, we're all interested.
Create interest.
We can pretend like we're not, but we're all interested.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
and Kenny Lang says that Barry Begley Jr. is active on Twitter, so that'd
I
be a good
wonder
way
how this
to
plays out for
get a
me.
hold of
Like,
him.
so if I get in a fight with another driver,
Right.
let's say somebody spins one of my cars
Right.
at Hickory,
Right.
right? My car's running second, or we're leading. My car's leading
And by my car, you mean one of the cars you
from
built.
Performance
You're
Center.
not. You're
right.
not
Now,
actually.
I'm not
you're
working
not
on
crew
it.
chief or
That's
whatever,
right. I'm one of my customer cars who I treat all as my own.
Right.
So if he gets spun, the only time I honestly don't want to intervene ever is if it's two of my customers. I'm not going to get between them. One F-bombs, the other F-bombs. I just stand there and laugh. Right. But so another customer spins my guy out, and I go down to the pits and I punch this dude in the face. What happens?
Your driver.
I'm not there with nobody.
Well, I mean, but you are.
But I'm not.
If you're fighting for him, then
For
you're
who?
then
See,
you're a member of
I
his
asked the
crew,
question
you
this
know?
the other day too, and this is exposing a weakness.
I agree.
Because I said I text a speedway and I said I wanted to know what their protest policy was, and they wanted to know if I was a participant or if I was a fan in the stands, and I said, well, what does that matter?
Right.
And he said, well, if you're a participant, you can protest something. If you're not a participant, you can't. Well, what stops you from giving the guy that run third the money to protest a car that you can visually see is completely wrong?
Right.
Like Ray Charles can see that the car is wrong.
Whose car was wrong that you
And
wanted to
we're not
protest?
talking about that here.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying
I just wondered if you were
that
going to tell me.
if we're going to be held to standards, then people are going to be held to those same standards. So my thing is, why does that make a difference? And how does it make a difference if I go out there and fight somebody? I'm just a fan. You can't keep me out of that. I just get banned from Hickory. Then I go to South Boston.
Well,
then I go
there's
to
a
Dillon.
difference from
Then I
a
go to, it doesn't matter.
fan trying to protest. You're talking about giving the money
If
to
you
one
don't
of the
have
other teams.
But if you don't have a license, you're a fan.
But if you're giving the money to another team member,
Well, right. But
that's not the same. That is a competitor protesting with your money.
Right, but I don't think that if you were in the pits, are you not a competitor in some aspect or another?
He goes into pits. He's not a competitor.
Right.
And, of course, I'm pointing at Mr. Langley, the boss.
I just don't think they can stop it.
No, they can't stop you from giving money to a team to protest.
I don't think they can stop any of it. I don't think you can. What are you going to lock them out of every racetrack? You can't stop it. You can't stop anybody from fighting anybody.
Oh, Lord, no.
I mean, you can't. You can ban them. Who cares? You ban them
how
from
many
one
times has
racetrack,
that got
that's
into it at Hickory? They didn't make him stop.
Right. He's good for Hickory, I think. Everybody else thinks no.
Absolutely.
Oh, 100%.
Kevin told me no, but I think he is. And I'll keep arguing with Kevin about that. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think some of it was unjustified.
I don't know, man. It's I think your question a minute ago about the whole thing of how you'd be handled. I think that's an interesting thing.
I don't think
it's
they
extremely
know how they would handle you.
I don't.
This is a parent.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, but I mean, who's doing tech to care about a protest and what racetracks are doing tech?
No,
here,
they're not.
you
Right.
know?
I mean, I just think some of it you're going to have to get under control, like the blatant stuff everywhere. Like this is a blatant act of. You're going to have to stop it somehow. If you don't, it's going to get out of control. Like it's continuing to get out of control. Hamke told me this. Hamke told me years ago, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, that it was getting so far out of control, the whole thing, that it was going to snowball out of control because we couldn't stop it as soon as it got on the other side. And he was right. He's somewhat right as to this point.
Right, I agree with you 100%. Ronnie Payne chiming in here. Great, works at Anderson, works for the Southeast Super Truck Series. Wants a little bit of a recap on what the penalties handed down were. $1,500 to Lee Pulliam, suspension until April 17th, which he doesn't race again until April 20th. And then probation until the end of the year. Phillip was given probation until the end of the year, $1,000 fine. He's suspended till the fine's paid, which, I mean, he could pay it today, tomorrow, whatever. And then Forrest wasn't dealt a NASCAR penalty because he isn't a NASCAR member, but he has been prohibited from attending NASCAR event. And I think that's probably setting a precedent here too. The whole prohibiting him from NASCAR events. And I'll just give the example on air. I don't care. Me and Lynn Carroll got into it when he was the NASCAR Weekly Series director. Back in the day, I wrote a story that he didn't really care for, and he was really upset. I know how upset he was because Greg Marlowe said, "Well, was he calm or was he raging?" And I said, "He was pretty calm." He said, "Oh, he was mad." So, and Greg Marlowe would know.
No,
okay?
he would definitely know.
And at the end of the conversation, he said, "Well, I got to look into how I can suspend you, from coming to the races, because you don't have a NASCAR license." I guess he didn't check that. And of course I didn't. And of course, nothing ever happened, and because he couldn't suspend me because I didn't have.
Right.
So here we are. We set a new precedent that you can be disallowed, prohibited, whatever word you want to use, from these events, or yes, there's question of the enforcement. 100%.
Right. So what does it matter
Yep.
if you enforce this penalty, but you don't have a way to enforce the penalty that you brought down? Everybody loses.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was really an exercise in futility. The whole thing. They got $2,500 richer. That's all that happened.
Right. Yeah. Just catching up on some comments here. Terry Haley says that Jason York was at Southern National back in March when the cars to a race there. He didn't make the field. So maybe he is thinking he won't make the race this weekend. I don't know that it's that. He actually had some engine trouble. That's the reason he didn't make the race. I believe he's a customer of Mike Rankin, who's an advertiser with us now. So not 100% sure, about him being there or not being there. Not 100% sure. Jeff Elliott talking about don't sign in as any team member,
That's what I mean.
Which is another, I agree. I mean, it's just another aspect.
I do not have a NASCAR license anymore. I haven't had one for the last 3 years.
Right.
I don't get one.
Right. Just, trying to read up.
I'll pay the extra money to not get fined.
Yeah.
It's like hedging my bet.
Well, I mean, she's talking about
right.
how much more expensive it is. It's $25 and $50 there. It's $50 for a non-NASCAR. But I mean, under this scenario, that $25 is well worth it.
Right? To not catch the fine for a $1,500 or $1,000, I win. I win.
It's
I can go 5-6 years, and I'm still to the plus side.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, it's just really interesting to me how how all this plays out. I don't know.
I want to hear from Brad.
Yeah. But looking at a penalty notice that was sent out by NASCAR to the racetrack, so I can read it here. It basically says the same thing that the previous ones, said, just a little more detailed. Les Westerfield's name is on it, and so is Kevin Neveline, who I believe was on here.
Yeah,
earlier.
that's the name you were trying to. Yeah, that's the name you were trying to get earlier.
But interesting.
You want to read it? No.
Silence.
He locked up right there.
Yeah, but
I don't think he wants to read it.
Spun out.
Yeah.
very
He
interesting.
got real red face too. You see that? I wish we had the camera on. Wow.
He's ignoring us.
That was a good one. He swallowed hard multiple times right there. That was juicy. Are you all right?
Yeah,
read it to us.
I'm good. But just reading here, when Michael St. John says when anyone comes on the track, I'm in the infield. Can I get on the track? Just asking for whatever reason, NASCAR, whatever. Yeah, I mean, I think
Right now you can. I don't advise it.
whatever, I don't either. I think it's a really, 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 really bad idea. But whatever. But yeah.
You're
So
spun out.
I'm having about 5 conversations over here at the same time. I need to get off my phone. So,
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
Tell them to bring it to Facebook.
Having some different Yeah, bring that conversation over here on the chat. That'd be an interesting.
Nobody wants
one,
to do that
for sure.
I appreciate all the stuff in the chat this time. This has been a good chat this week.
It's been exceptional, and I think obviously because of the scenario,
sure,
and, people's interest and people trying to figure out what's going on. Wes Farrell says that if we don't stop guys from running onto the track, someone is going to get hurt due to their own bad decision. I agree. I mean, that's where we're at.
Right.
I mean, I don't even want to bring up the scenario, but the Tony Stewart, Kevin Ward thing. I mean, that's.
I told you the first time.
Yes, I mean, we got to keep people off the racetracks.
Yep.
I mean, 100%. So, I mean, I think that's the number one thing, and I just don't know how. I don't know how. I don't think this penalty does that in any way, shape, or form.
No.
So.
I think the penalty caused more doubts than it did. The rules coming down caused more questions than they actually answered, in my opinion, in the end.
Right.
And I think that's why the huge uproar, because so many people were like, I just can't make the connection.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. Well, I mean, I think that's about all we can talk about that for one night.
Yep,
I'm glad we were able to come down. Appreciate you, keeping the place open here.
This week, I want people to. I think it's going to be a heck of a race. If you catch it on Fans Choice TV or Cars Tour, what is it?
CarsTour.tv.
Yep. Yeah, I mean.
Yep. That might be where I'm watching it this weekend. I have so much design work to do right now. I kind of painted myself in a corner, and I may miss this one this weekend. So.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure I'm going Sunday for sure. I might go Saturday to the my father-in-law wants to go to that car show at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Terry Haley asking about how many cars will start this weekend. It's 28 cars will start this weekend. And that's I
appreciate all the new listeners too. A lot of new people this week. We do a show to pitch at Langley
every Monday, sometime between 6 and 7. So I can't give you a definite starting time here.
We do, right?
I mean, we've been shuffling it around to see what works. But look,
we're more like a podcast that just goes live.
Yeah,
we're something.
We're and that's what we are. We're just a podcast that goes live. Our guest from the other night, Boo Boo Dalton, he says he doesn't understand why Lee had a fine.
No, a lot of people don't.
I mean, if somebody explains it to us, we'll all know. So, Adam Cole, who announces at South Boston and I believe Orange County too, and I think he did the Thanksgiving Classic last year. Does a great job. He said it's the first time he's had a chance to tune in, sounding good. Definitely, maybe like to get you down here on the show.
Wow.
One week you can talk about all the things going on, up in your area, and obviously it's, exciting times. Exciting times at South Boston. Here we are. We got all this excitement going on in South Boston,
and then only had 2 races.
And an hour down the road, you got Orange County with this 30,000 to win race this weekend. So area.
If you don't like it right now, you're in trouble.
Oh,
because there's good stuff happening right now.
100%.
Usually stuff like this don't create that kind of interest until 3/4 way in the season. There's only 2 races in a Sobo.
Yeah, but it's going to be brutal. It's been building.
Big Jason with Jamie Melton's
Absolutely
crew.
love it. And it's great that he came up with that, right? Like, he's so right. We should do that.
We can hire him to be the referee.
Oh, 100%. Listen, I'm not grabbing. He would run the entire show right there, that guy.
Right. But he said since the racetracks don't want a boxing ring there, Roger should put in his shop on radio night and have it live on Facebook. Just a thought. I mean, I'm all for it.
I like it.
I'm all for it.
I like it.
You have to get some of these torn up cars out of the door before we can fit them in here at the
right
moment.
Now.
For weeks I'm talking about how empty it is in here, and then all of a sudden, here we go.
It all came back again. It's everywhere.
It's racing at Hickory, and I think all Hickory, Tri-County. I see Gobel's car over here.
Yeah, it's
he had a really good run until he had got to in the wreck there late. I can't remember exactly what happened.
We had just actually converted that thing to a big spring for him, and he was happy with it, and now it's wrecked bad. So we cut it off and we're putting a new one on. Go again.
Yeah.
Just that quick.
Got a lot of cutting off and putting on new again in here.
Everything's about cut off. Just started with the new. Everybody the other day it looked there was a cloud of haze in here from all the grinding.
Right.
Good stuff.
Brian Wall says we're almost as good as MRN. I don't know if
He's
that's a
drunk.
compliment or.
I think he's drunk. Listen to MRN in a long time. Thank you, Brian. No, that's really nice. I didn't mean it in a.
And when I talked to Derek Stoltz earlier, I believe we're going to get him on here in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that'll be a extremely
Very
entertaining show.
Absolutely.
I think we'll probably get kicked off at that point.
I think that's when we need to have the boxing ring in here because he's got enough enemies that we could go ahead and just line them up.
But the interesting part is he lights them up, right? Like he doesn't just jab and get away. Like he jabs. And then he jabs again, and then he jabs again, and then the next day, he's good for it sure.
Right.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Well, I'm gonna try to answer this one last question because
Sure.
I don't actually know the answer to it. But Ricky Hansley asked, did Lee Spotter not see him coming to go out on the track and could have pulled away before? I'm gonna tell you that, and I had a conversation with the driver earlier today, and he's like, "Well, I'd have pulled away, when he jumped the first wall there."
It
Well,
didn't look like he was going on the
Let me tell
track.
you what would have happened if you'd have fired it up and went to pull away right then. He'd have been standing in front of your car right as you rolled,
Right.
and it would have been a very bad scenario. So the way it worked out was actually probably
Yeah.
the best possible scenario for the way it did, because it's not like you can just fire them up on a moment's notice and all that. So Karen Tennell chiming in here says thanks for
Brad Allen
thanks
finally
for all
woke
you
up from
guys
his
do.
nap.
Well, he was on here earlier. I think he had to go get something to eat. That's what I'm guessing. So
Yeah, me too.
that's my guess here, and I guess that's our cue to get off here because
Let's
Doc's
do
hungry.
it.
So
Doc's
I guess
always hungry.
In my belly.
Oh my God!
Come on, man. Nobody
Well,
wants that.
Wow.
Nobody
Wow.
wants that. Check out the podcast. Let us
Yes.
know what you think. I appreciate the comments. I even like the ones where people tell me I suck. I'm cool with all of them.
Yep.
Just let us know so we
Hey,
can make it better.
Listen, I know this Jeff Elliott guy's got to be drunk, okay? Because he just said we're every bit as good as Ken Squire. And I am not going with that one, okay?
Right, yeah,
He
that
said he
guy's
grew
a
up going
legend.
to his track. I can't go with you on that one, but I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
And Brian Wall said he is slightly buzzed, and we're not really all that shocked here at the moment, okay? But, hey, guys, tune in. Next Monday we'll be back on talking about everything that happens at the 30,000 to win race.
Yeah, it should be good.
I mean, those guys at South Boston are killing each other every week for $2,000 or $3,000. I mean, we got $30,000 this weekend.
30
It could be
grand.
really interesting. So,
I don't have enough shop space for $30,000. I don't think
well, yeah.
they'll tear them up.
Good thing for you is most of the cars in the race are not yours. So, or bad thing for you, one or the other.
From now on, Speed 51 will be coming in here, and we're going to be doing stuff from inside the Performance Center.
They have their own studio. They don't have to
can
mooch off
afford it,
somebody
right?
else.
That's cool. That's good for everybody.
Oh man! All right, guys. I guess I'm gonna let Doc take us home here.
All right, we'll give you some details real quick before we get off the air about Orange County. Friday the 5th, if the weather cooperates, they'll have practice on and off with the schedule between 3:30 and 6:30. Don't think it costs anything Friday to go in to watch practice. And don't forget, they got the Old North State kickoff party downtown Hillsborough, North Carolina at several venues. Volume Records and Beer, Hot Tin Roof, Witt's Frozen Custard, the Village Diner. So be sure, and even if it does rain, they will be doing appearances with the drivers. So be sure and check out those establishments. Saturday, April 6th, the grandstands open at 4 p.m. Late model stock car time trials at 5. Top 5 will be locked into the feature. So they're going to have way more than 28 cars. So these heat races are going to be very important. I've seen some folks say, I don't care about the heat races. Every spot's going to count. So the heat races could be...
They're going to be the best thing, I think.
They're going to be
Are
pretty
they televised
intense.
too?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's going to
There
be
is
pretty
no
intense.
excuse to not, in some way, shape, or form, view this race this weekend.
The
No
heat
excuse.
races start at 7 o'clock on Saturday. 30-lap heat races, the top 4 will advance to the feature. Then they'll have a last chance race. Top 5 will advance to the feature. Last 2 spots are provisionals.
And that's probably going to be a couple Touring 12 guys. I hate
You know
to say
it is.
that, but I mean, that's
I don't
just the way this
disagree.
is going to play
I
out.
don't
mean,
disagree.
last year at Tri-County, Touring 12 guys got, the last 2 spots.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of them actually went home, Charlie Watson.
That's right.
The best
Local,
T-shirt seller.
right.
You know what I mean?
And local to that area.
Yeah, I'd have got him in just for the T-shirt
Yep.
sales.
Absolutely. And then on the show day, April 7th on Sunday, the grandstands open at 12 noon. Fan Fest starts a little after 1 o'clock. Green flag flies at 3 p.m.
Good deal. Looking forward to it.
And that's our story.
Thanks, everybody.
Sticking to it. Appreciate everybody checking out with us, hanging out with us on a odd spot for a show, but hey, we had to get it in.
We're gonna start doing them every evening at 5 o'clock. So.
Yeah, every evening, 5 o'clock.
No, we're really not.
We're not.
Monday.
I can't afford to do them every night. At
my wife just shot me the rods.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're gonna be doing them every evening.
I think that happens often, from what I've heard.
Easy.
Oh, sorry,
Right,
sorry.
let's just leave on that one. All right.
Well, that'll wrap up this week's show. We want to thank you for listening to RACE22 Radio. Be sure and keep us logged on to race22.com for all your favorite late model stock car racing action, videos, podcasts, and much, much more. We'll be back broadcasting live around the globe next Monday at 6 p.m. from right here at the Performance Center Racing Warehouse Studio in beautiful Statesville, North Carolina. Until then, we'll see you at the races. RACE22 Radio is a presentation of RACE22 Productions.
I must be